Have you ever had that moment where a plan gets canceled at the last minute and instead of feeling disappointed, you feel a quiet sense of relief? You look at your phone, reread the message and think, oh, I get the evening to myself. No small talk, no pretending to be more energetic than you feel, just you, your thoughts, maybe a cup of coffee, maybe nothing at all. And then, almost immediately, a second thought sneaks in. Is this normal? Is there something wrong with me for enjoying this? Most people assume that enjoying being alone means you're lonely, antisocial, awkward, or secretly sad. That if you prefer solitude, it must be because you failed at being social. But psychology tells a very different story, a story that's quieter, deeper, and honestly, kind of beautiful. So let me show you what's really going on inside the minds of people who genuinely enjoy being alone, not as an escape, but as a choice. Imagine your brain like a radio. For some people, it's tuned to external stations, voices, conversations, group energy, constant input. That noise fuels them. But for others, the signal is internal. Thoughts, patterns, reflections, ideas drifting in and out. Solitude isn't silence for these people, it's where the signal finally comes through clearly. If you enjoy being alone, your brain often processes stimulation more deeply. Psychologists have noticed that people who prefer solitude tend to have higher sensitivity to external input. This doesn't mean weakness, it means depth. Your brain doesn't skim experiences, it dives into them. Crowded rooms, constant conversations, notifications buzzing like mosquitoes in your pocket. They're not just annoying, they're cognitively expensive. So when you're alone, your nervous system exhales, like finally taking off shoes that were just a little too tight all day. There's also this cultural myth that being alone automatically equals loneliness, but loneliness isn't about being alone, it's about feeling disconnected. You can feel deeply lonely in a room full of people who don't really see you, and you can feel deeply connected while sitting alone with your thoughts, a book, or even just the hum of the room. Studies on solitude show that voluntary solitude, choosing to be alone, often increases emotional regulation, creativity, and clarity. The key word is choosing. When solitude is something you want, it becomes restorative instead of painful. Think about how often people use others as background noise, socializing as a way to avoid their own thoughts. Silence can be uncomfortable if you're not used to being with yourself. For people who enjoy solitude, silence isn't an enemy, it's a mirror. Sometimes a kind one, sometimes an honest one, but always informative. When you're alone, there's no performance, no subtle pressure to react a certain way or keep the energy up. You get to exist without editing yourself. There's a fascinating concept in psychology called self-concept clarity. It refers to how clearly and confidently you understand who you are. People who enjoy spending time alone often score higher in this area, not because they're born wiser, but because solitude gives you uninterrupted time to notice your patterns. What excites you? What drains you? What thoughts keep looping back? Over time, you start recognizing your own internal voice instead of confusing it with everyone else's opinions. Historically, solitude has always played a role in deep thinking. Philosophers, writers, monks, scientists, many of them sought isolation not because they hated people, but because they loved thinking, loved observing, loved understanding. Carl Jung once said that solitude is for the soul what food is for the body, and modern neuroscience backs this up. When you're alone and not overstimulated, your brain enters what's called the default mode network. This is the mental state associated with self-reflection, memory consolidation, creativity, and meaning-making. In other words, the brain uses alone time to quietly organize your inner world. This is why some of your best ideas show up in the shower, or on long walks, or late at night when everyone else is asleep. It's not magic, it's mental space. Of course, enjoying being alone doesn't mean you don't like people. It usually means you like people selectively. You value depth over frequency, quality over quantity. You'd rather have one conversation that actually means something than 10 conversations that skim the surface. Small talk can feel exhausting not because you're socially incapable, but because your brain is wired to look for patterns, meaning, and emotional nuance. Asking about the weather feels like reading the first page of a book over and over again. There's also an emotional strength hidden here that often goes unnoticed. People who are comfortable being alone are less dependent on external validation. When you don't need constant social input to feel okay, you're less likely to shape yourself around what others expect. You don't disappear when no one's watching. That independence can sometimes make others uncomfortable. In a world that equates visibility with value, choosing solitude looks suspicious, but psychologically, it often signals self-trust. That said, this trait isn't always easy. Enjoying solitude can come with misunderstandings. People might assume you're distant, cold, or uninterested. You might get labeled as hard to read. And sometimes you may even question yourself. You might wonder if you should be more social, more outgoing, more available. But psychology suggests that forcing yourself into constant interaction when your nervous system needs space can actually increase stress and emotional fatigue. It's like trying to charge your phone with the wrong cable. You're doing something, but it's not nourishing you. There's also a difference between enjoying being alone and avoiding connection. Psychology is very clear on this. Healthy solitude recharges you so you can connect more authentically later. Avoidant isolation shrinks your world. People who enjoy being alone usually still value meaningful relationships, they just don't need them to be constant. Think of it like breathing. Inhale, exhale. Togetherness, solitude. Both matter. Problems arise when one replaces the other completely. You might notice that people who enjoy being alone are often very observant. When you're not busy performing socially, you notice details, tone shifts, facial expressions, patterns in behavior. You see things others miss because you're not rushing to fill silence. This observational ability is linked to empathy, even if it doesn't always look loud or expressive. You feel deeply, just quietly. And then there's creativity. Solitude is the natural habitat of original thought. When you're alone, your mind isn't constantly reacting, it's generating, connecting dots across time, replaying conversations, imagining alternatives. This is why writers, artists, and thinkers often crave alone time, not as a luxury, but as a necessity. Without it, their thoughts feel scattered. With it, ideas start lining up like magnets. If you enjoy being alone, there's a good chance your inner world is rich. Not always easy, sometimes noisy, sometimes heavy, but rich. You don't get bored easily because your mind has places to go. Solitude becomes a space where you process emotions at your own pace, where you make sense of experiences instead of immediately talking them away. So if you're someone who enjoys being alone, maybe the real question isn't why am I like this, but what does this part of me need? Maybe it needs rest from noise. Maybe it needs depth. Maybe it needs room to think without interruption. None of that is wrong. None of that is broken. In fact, in a hyper-connected world that rarely stops talking, people who enjoy solitude act like a counterbalance. They remind us that silence isn't empty, that being alone isn't the same as being lost, that you can be whole without being surrounded. So the next time you choose a quiet night over a crowded room or a long walk over endless scrolling, don't rush to judge yourself. Notice how your body feels. Notice how your thoughts slow down or sharpen. That's not avoidance, that's alignment. And if any of this felt familiar, maybe take a moment to sit with it, reflect, or even share in the comments how solitude shows up in your life. If you're curious about the hidden patterns behind everyday behaviors like this, stick around. There's a lot more going on inside your mind than you've been told.